close your eyes and let's drift back to the outer edges of Earth's atmosphere. As the world quiets down, imagine yourself floating weightlessly above the blue marble, tethered to nothing but silence and stars. Tonight, let's wander through 10 delightfully useless scientific facts to drift off to for 2 hours, softly, slowly. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling friendly, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You float gently in low Earth orbit, surrounded by inky silence and distant pinpricks of ancient light. But suddenly, your nose wrinkles. Is that grilled steak? Hot metal? A hint of welding fumes with a dash of fireworks? Yep, space smells like a smoky barbecue. Astronauts returning from a spacewalk often describe the scent clinging to their suits as somewhere between seared steak and gunpowder. Not exactly what you'd expect from the final frontier. Scientists believe it's the result of high-energy particles interacting with the suits and station surfaces, leaving behind traces of ozone and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, molecules you also find in charred food and car exhaust. Delicious. Of course, you can't actually smell space directly without your lungs explosively decompressing. Tiny detail. But the sense there, ghostly, lingering, like an uninvited guest who smokes cigars and never leaves. Scientists still argue whether these compounds are formed in the vacuum of space or during repressurization. But really, who cares? Space smells like Sunday dinner in a welding shop, and that's good enough for dream fuel. And it gets weirder. Just imagine a fire in space. Oh, you can't, because flames behave differently up here. Without gravity pulling heat upward, fire curls into little glowing spheres, flickering like alien jellyfish. Watching a candle burn in microgravity is like seeing a ghost try to dance. Then there's the sound, or lack of it. No one can hear you scream in space, but they can hear you if you're inside a metal module with bad soundproofing, and your crewmate snores like a dying walrus. NASA has yet to solve snoring in zero gravity, perhaps the real final frontier. Still floating? Good, because up here, you're miles away from your inbox, your bills, and the neighbor's aggressively saxophone-playing teenager. You're surrounded by emptiness and steak fumes, and very faintly, the realization that humanity is basically a bunch of meat balloons strapped to tin cans, hurling through cosmic radiation at 17,000 miles per hour. Comforting, isn't it? You probably never ever heard about this, but at one point, NASA tried to develop space food that tasted like the smells astronauts noticed after spacewalks. It didn't go well. Barbecue-flavored tang is not a crowd pleaser, so you float, and you sniff, and you wonder how many cows have been to space. Spoiler, still zero. You're still drifting, but now let's drop down. Back to Earth, back to your kitchen, where something is glowing softly in the fruit bowl. That banana you bought 3 days ago. It's radioactive. Not glowing in the dark, call the nuclear authorities radioactive. But yes, it contains potassium-40, a naturally occurring isotope that's just unstable enough to make your morning smoothie a mild source of ionizing radiation. One banana gives off about 0.1 microsieverts, which is a unit you'll never use again unless you start dating a nuclear physicist. It would take about 10 million bananas to give you a lethal dose, though honestly, the fiber alone would get you first. And don't worry, you're radioactive too, Your bones, your blood, even your breath carries trace amounts of the same stuff. You're a gentle, humming isotope factory. But bananas hold the crown because they've become the poster fruit of edible radioactivity. Customs officers even use the banana equivalent dose as a cheeky way to explain low radiation exposure to the public. You just got scanned at the airport. That's like 2 bananas max. Of course, bananas aren't out to get you. They're just overachievers in the potassium department. Potassium's vital for nerve function, muscle control, and, conveniently, slowly spicing you with gamma rays. Nature's multitasking at its finest. Still, scientists debate whether using bananas to explain radiation makes people more or less worried. Some argue it trivializes exposure. Others say it helps normalize it. It's the fruit-based physics controversy nobody asked for. Meanwhile, other foods are jealous. Brazil nuts have even more radioactivity per gram, thanks to the soil they grow in. But bananas? They've got the marketing team. And let's not forget, potassium-40 has a half-life of 1.25 billion years. That's longer than your apartment lease. That banana you forgot in your backpack last week. Its isotopes will outlast humanity's entire TikTok phase. Still awake? Good. Because while you contemplate your mildly glowing fruit salad, let's take a moment to appreciate how absurdly normal we find this. You eat radioactive food, sleep surrounded by cosmic rays, and live on a giant ball of molten metal spinning through vacuum. And your biggest worry is whether the avocado's gone bad. Perspective. There's even a semi-serious online calculator called the Banana Equivalent Dose Calculator, where you can figure out how many bananas equal 1 dental X-ray or a transatlantic flight. It's exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. And here's the kicker. Some nuclear power plants actually use bananas to teach safety classes. This area gives off the same radiation as 3 bananas. Comforting? Maybe. Hilarious? Definitely. So tomorrow, when you peel that cheerful yellow fruit, know this. You're flirting with ionizing energy. You're living on the edge. You're crunching radiation like it's breakfast cereal. But hey, it's a great source of potassium. Now that you're gently glowing from your radioactive snack, let's slide quietly under the sea to meet one of evolution's most poetic typos, the octopus. You spot it drifting between coral shadows, arms trailing like ribbons of ink. It pauses, watching you with horizontal pupils, calculating, probably judging. You're in the presence of a creature so strange, scientists still argue whether it even belongs on Earth. Because this squishy cephalopod has 3 hearts. 2 pump blood through the gills, 1 for each side, while the third keeps the rest of the body alive and pulsing. When it swims, that third heart takes a break. No, really, it just stops. That's why octopuses prefer crawling. They literally get tired of love. Also, their blood is blue, not in a royal metaphor way, literally blue. It uses copper-based hemocyanin instead of iron-rich hemoglobin, making it better for transporting oxygen in cold, low-oxygen waters. But it also means they're basically little underwater royalty, with circulation quirks. And brains? Oh, plural. 1 main brain and a mini one in each arm. Each tentacle can think, touch, taste, and make independent decisions. So if you ever get into a game of chess with an octopus arm, expect to lose 8 times simultaneously. Scientists still debate how intelligent octopuses really are. Some say they're on par with dogs or small children. Others think they might be smarter than your average online comment section. They've escaped lab tanks, opened jars from the inside, and even memorized individual researchers. That one time you tapped on the glass, Yeah, it remembers. Also, octopuses taste with their suckers. Every slimy, sucky grab is a full 5-course flavor profile. So imagine shaking someone's hand and instantly knowing what they had for lunch. Awkward. Want more nightmare fuel? They can change color, shape, and texture in under a second. Some mimic rocks. Others pretend to be sea snakes. One species imitates a flounder so convincingly it probably has an acting agent. Their skin isn't just camouflage, it's communication, mood ring, and invisibility cloak rolled into one. Hogwarts, eat your heart out. And here's the heartbreaking twist. Most octopuses die right after mating. The males disintegrate, and the females waste away guarding their eggs. One famously guarded hers for over 4 years without eating. That's love. Or possibly a tragic case of parental burnout. Also, in a strange twist of octopus fate, their genome is just as weird as they are. When scientists sequenced it, they found a staggering number of gene editing capabilities. So many that some biologists said it looked alien. Yes, literally alien. And no, we still haven't ruled it out. But the octopus doesn't care. It's just floating there, judging your flippers, plotting an escape route, and maybe composing a haiku about your hair. So tonight, while your own one, boring heart pumps predictably in your chest, take a moment to honor the overachiever of the sea, the poet, the escape artist, the blue-blooded, triple-hearted genius in a blob suit. And remember, if you ever arm wrestle one, it's not just cheating. It's personal. Leaving behind the inky arms of our ocean friend, you now drift deeper into ancient waters, way, way back. Before the dinosaurs, before trees. Yes, before trees. Because sharks are older than them. Let that sink in. Sharks were cruising Earth's oceans over 400 million years ago. Trees didn't show up until about 360 million years ago. So for at least 40 million years, sharks had the whole place to themselves, just gnashing and chilling, while the land was still figuring out how to grow a twig. You picture one now, a sleek silhouette slicing through prehistoric currents, unimpressed by time. Because when you're a shark, you don't evolve so much as exist. Sure, the modern great white is a bit different from its ancient cousins, but the fundamentals are the same. Cartilaginous skeletons, multiple rows of teeth, an unshakable poker face. And while trees were still workshopping the concept of bark, sharks had already figured out electroreception. That's right. Sharks can detect the tiny electrical fields produced by the heartbeat of a fish buried under sand. Which means, yes, they could probably find your phone on silent mode faster than you can. And they don't just grow teeth, they rotate them. Constantly. A conveyor belt of chompy doom. Some sharks go through 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. It's like nature handed them an unlimited dental plan with no copay. Scientists still argue whether Megalodon, the infamous mega shark, was an ancestor of modern great whites or just a terrifying cousin. But either way, it was massive, as long as a school bus, with teeth the size of your hand. And gone, which is probably for the best, unless you enjoy being recreationally bitten in half. Now, let's take a breath. Because the idea of sharks cruising around before forest is kind of humbling, isn't it? You're part of a species that thinks it's advanced because it can order tacos via app. And meanwhile, sharks are out here being biological time capsules. Also, their skin isn't smooth. It's covered in dermal denticles, tiny tooth-like scales that reduce drag and make them faster in water. Swimmers in Olympic suits have even mimicked the design. So yes, shark skin is better at swimming than you are. And unlike most animals, some sharks don't sleep in the traditional sense. Instead, they enter a rest state while still swimming, keeping water flowing over their gills. Try that during your next nap. See how it goes. Want weird? There's a Greenland shark swimming out there right now, who might have been born during Shakespeare's lifetime. These cold water giants can live up to 500 years. That's 5 centuries of slow, mysterious lurking. Honestly, it's inspiring. Not productive, but inspiring. And as you float in this warm soup of sharky trivia, just know, trees may give us shade, but sharks gave us style. So the next time you see a tree swaying nobly in the breeze, remember, it's the younger sibling in this story. The loud, leafy new kid. And the shark? Still here, still swimming, still judging you for skipping leg day. Dry off your fins and shake off the seawater, because now we're heading inland, to a land where nature got a little angular. Australia. You're trudging through eucalyptus groves, the air dry and buzzing with cicadas, when you stumble upon a trail of tiny cubes. No, not sugar, not dice. Poop. Neatly stacked, geometrically improbable, undeniably cube-shaped poop. Wombat poop. Yes, wombats. The burly, fuzzy marsupials built like potato-powered tanks are the only animals known to produce perfectly cube-shaped droppings. Each one is about the size of a sugar cube and alarmingly precise. You could almost arrange them into a tiny toilet paper throne. Almost. So how does a soft, organic animal produce Lego bricks from its behind? For a while, scientists had no idea, but they knew it had nothing to do with diet. It wasn't until 2018 that researchers finally studied the intestines of wombats and realized that their colons are stretchy in some places and rigid in others. As the poop moves through, the alternating pressure sculpts it into little cubes, kind of like how you could shape clay with a very determined pasta roller. And why cubes? Wombats use them for communication and territory marking. The shape keeps the poop from rolling away, which is apparently important if you're trying to make a statement with your bathroom habits. Spherical droppings. Amateur hour. Wombats go full Tetris. Scientists still argue whether the cube shape evolved purely for marking purposes, or if it also prevents the poop from being blown away in high winds. Either way, imagine a world where your survival depended on the aerodynamic stability of your feces. Also, wombats have backward-facing pouches, so they don't fill with dirt while digging. It's the kind of engineering detail that makes you wonder if marsupials hired their own industrial designer. But back to the poop. In 2021, engineers got so inspired by wombat digestion that they tried to recreate the cube-forming method for manufacturing purposes. That's right. Wombat intestines might one day influence how we make things like tofu, soap, or even space station parts. Because nothing says cutting edge like cube poop science. And wombats themselves. Delightful little tanks. They can run up to 25 miles per hour, survive bushfires by diving into burrows, and use their reinforced rumps, literally made of bone plates, to crush intruders against tunnel walls. So if a wombat ever gives you side-eye, just nod respectfully and back away. Now imagine one carefully placing its cube like a tiny, fuzzy architect. There's something oddly meditative about it. You, lying in bed, thinking about a determined little wombat clenching out geometry in the bush. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen? Yeah. Nature's been weird about waste for a long time. So tonight, as you settle into your soft, rounded bed, spare a thought for the animal that dares to defy curves. In a world of blobs and splats, the wombat chose edges. And if someone ever calls your ideas pointless, just remind them, even poop can be a perfect cube. Let's peel away from the sunburnt soils of Australia and zoom inward, way inward, to your own body, to something happening right now, quietly, invisibly, deep in your belly. Your stomach lining is rebuilding itself. Yep, every few days the inner walls of your stomach completely replace themselves. A full makeover, like an HGTV renovation, but with more acid and fewer marble countertops. You're digesting food in a room that's constantly under construction. Why? Because your stomach is filled with hydrochloric acid strong enough to corrode metal. If it weren't for rapid regeneration, you'd basically dissolve yourself from the inside out. Cheery thought, right? So your body works around the clock to keep that from happening. Cells slough off, fresh ones emerge, and you never even notice. It's like your digestive tract runs on a "don't look behind the curtain" policy. And that acid, it's no joke. pH level around 1 to 2, strong enough to dissolve small bones and, allegedly, razor blades. Though please don't test that. We're all about bedtime facts, not bedtime emergency room visits. Here's the twist. Scientists still debate how your stomach lining resists its own acid. Some say it's the mucus layer. Others point to tight cell junctions or proton pump regulation. It's a bit like trying to understand why your bathroom doesn't flood every time you flush. It works, but the explanation gets weird fast. And speaking of weird, there's a microbe that lives in your stomach acid, like it's no big deal. Helicobacter pylori. It wiggles through mucus like a slimy ninja and has evolved to thrive in acid hell. It was once blamed for ulcers, but now scientists think it might actually help regulate hunger hormones. So, parasite or tiny digestive therapist? Still under debate. Also, your stomach talks. Those gurgling sounds? They aren't always hunger. They're just peristaltic waves. Muscle contractions that push food, air, and regrets through your gut. You could be completely full and still sound like a haunted water bottle. And if you're wondering why your stomach growls the moment you're in a quiet room with other people, blame the vagus nerve. It loves drama and has impeccable timing. Fun fact, you have more bacteria in your digestive tract than human cells in your entire body. Trillions of tiny organisms working 24/7, like a microscopic workforce with no HR department. They help you digest, protect your immune system, and probably judge your snack choices. And those gut bacteria, they talk to your brain. Scientists call it the gut-brain axis, and it's like a secret hotline where your bowels send cryptic messages about how you're feeling. Ever get hangry? That's your microbiome flipping a table. Meanwhile, your stomach lining is out here quietly retiling its flaws. No applause, no drama, just biological hustle. So tonight, as you drift off, you can smile knowing your stomach is a little home renovation project with acid-resistant wallpaper and self-repairing furniture. You're basically a living lava lamp, gooey, bubbling, and always in motion. And yet, somehow, you sleep. Now let's zoom even smaller, into the microscopic realm, where life wears a puffer jacket and survives basically everything. Meet the tardigrade, also known as the water bear or moss piglet. This 8-legged micro-critter looks like a cross between a squishy vacuum bag and a gummy bear having a midlife crisis. And it's one of the most indestructible things on Earth. Tardigrades can survive in boiling water, freezing temperatures, crushing pressure, and radiation levels that would cook a human like a microwave burrito. Oh, and did I mention they can survive in space? Yep. In 2007, scientists shot some tardigrades into low Earth orbit just to see what would happen. Exposed to the vacuum of space without air, water, or sunblock, some of them just shrugged, paused their metabolism, and floated around like they were on vacation. When they returned to Earth, they rehydrated and walked away like nothing happened. No therapy needed. So how do they do it? They enter a state called cryptobiosis, basically life's pause button. They curl into a dry, shriveled blob called a ton, lower their metabolism to nearly zero, and just wait, for decades if needed. Scientists revived one after 30 years in a freezer, and it waddled off like someone had just hit play. Scientists still argue whether tardigrades are truly immortal or just extremely hard to kill. Their DNA repair mechanisms are next level, and they even produce unique proteins that form a glass-like shield inside their cells during stress, a literal biological force field. They've survived UV radiation, gamma rays, dehydration, and complete desiccation. You, on the other hand, need a moisturizer and 2 coffees just to function by 10 a.m., and they're everywhere. Scraping moss off a sidewalk, you just dislodged a tardigrade or 12. They live in soil, glaciers, deep-sea vents, even hot springs. Basically, if there's a drop of moisture, a tardigrade is probably there, sipping it politely and judging us for being so fragile. They also reproduce via parthenogenesis, which is science speak for. Sometimes they don't even need a partner. Nature's tiny introverts doing just fine on their own. Thank you very much. And their faces, equal parts adorable and unsettling, like something that should star in a children's cartoon, but also possibly a Lovecraft novella. But despite all their resilience, they're not immortal. Boil them long enough, blast them with the wrong kind of radiation, or leave them too dry for too long, and even these little warriors tap out. Still, they're about as close to unkillable as anything Earth's ever cooked up. In fact, scientists have suggested that if Earth were destroyed by an asteroid or solar flare, tardigrades might be the only survivors. Not cockroaches, not Twinkies, tardigrades, floating silently through space in tiny microscopic tombs, waiting for the next habitable moss patch to show up. So tonight, as you curl under your blanket like a warm burrito, remember, somewhere nearby, a tardigrade is curled up too. Tiny, wrinkled, indestructible. Just waiting. And honestly, same. From tiny tanks of survival, let's turn to a much bigger question. Is your window lying to you? You're standing in a cathedral, gazing at a stained glass window that's older than most countries. The glass at the bottom is noticeably thicker than the top. Aha, you think. Proof that glass flows like a liquid over time, right? Not quite. The idea that glass is a super slow-moving liquid has floated around for decades. It's poetic, it's eerie, and it's probably wrong. Glass is an amorphous solid. That means its molecules are disordered, like a frozen liquid, but not actively flowing. At room temperature, it's solid. Like a rebellious teenager, it just refuses to organize itself into a proper crystal structure. So why are old windows thicker at the bottom? Historians say it's more likely due to the way glass was made centuries ago. Blown and spun into sheets, then cut by hand, often unevenly. Glaziers simply installed the thick end down for stability, because even in the Middle Ages, people liked their windows not falling over. Scientists still argue whether glass has any measurable flow over millennia. Some say it does, just incredibly slowly. Others say it's functionally static, It's the slowest science drama you've never asked for. Modern studies using ultra-sensitive equipment have measured zero movement in glass over timeframes that would make your taxes seem speedy. So unless your window is secretly a lava lamp, it's not going anywhere. But glass isn't just about flow, or lack thereof. It's a wonderful material. It's transparent, hard, brittle, and yet can be stretched into fibers thinner than a hair to carry your entire internet. You're probably listening to this through a signal bounced across glass tubes thinner than your fingernail. Also, it's technically a liquid, but only at very high temperatures, somewhere around 1400 degrees. So if you're trying to melt a wine bottle in your oven tonight, don't. Bad idea. There are even new types of glass being developed. Flexible glass, bulletproof glass, glass that heals itself when cracked. Somewhere out there, a lab technician is poking a petri dish of experimental glass with a stick and whispering, "Science." Fun twist. Glass is actually considered a fourth state of matter by some scientists, different from solids, liquids, and gases. It's sometimes called a non-crystalline solid, or amorphous solid, depending on who's funding the research. And here's a quirky fact. Glass breaks at the speed of sound, about 3,000 miles per hour. Next time you drop your phone screen, just know you've triggered a microscopic supersonic event. So next time someone tells you that old church windows flow downward, you can gently correct them. Or not. It's kind of fun to imagine them oozing like lazy syrup ghosts. You probably never heard this, but modern glass, like Gorilla Glass in your smartphone, is tougher than some metals. If your phone had feelings, it would be so smug about this. So rest easy tonight, knowing your windows aren't melting. They're just chill. Very, very chill. Like you drifting through facts, through time, through the illusion of flow, in a world of uncrystallized wonders. Still with me? Good, because now we reach a moment of quiet revelation. You, dear listener, are glowing. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, biologically. Right now, your body emits a faint, almost imperceptible light, about 1,000 times weaker than your eyes can detect. It's called Biophoton emission, and it's happening all the time, thanks to metabolic reactions inside your cells. In other words, you're softly shimmering like a badly charged glow stick, and you didn't even know. In 2009, Japanese scientists used ultra-sensitive cameras in complete darkness to record this human glow. They found that our bioluminescence follows a daily rhythm, peaking in the afternoon and fading at night, kind of like your mood. But don't worry, you're not about to be recruited into the cast of Twilight. This glow is far too faint to see with the naked eye. It's more like your cells are whispering light to the universe, one tiny photon at a time. Scientists still argue whether this glow has any biological purpose. Some think it's just a byproduct of oxidative stress, cellular wear and tear. Others suspect it might play a subtle role in cell signaling. Or maybe it's just your mitochondria doing jazz hands. And here's a kicker. Your face glows more than the rest of your body, especially your forehead, cheeks, and neck. Why? Possibly because those areas are more exposed to sunlight during the day, which affects skin metabolism. Or maybe your skin just has strong main character energy. Meanwhile, other creatures really know how to glow. Fireflies flash for love. Deep-sea fish use bioluminescence to lure prey. There's even a mushroom that glows in the dark forests of Brazil, like a fungal fairy light. Some sharks glow. Some jellyfish explode in light when disturbed. Your glow, by comparison, is a modest whisper in a very loud concert. And speaking of strange light, there are people who claim to see auras, colorful energy fields around others. While there's no scientific consensus supporting that, the idea of subtle biological light does make you wonder. Are we glowing in ways our eyes simply haven't evolved to see? Also, you can enhance your body's glow. Eat more antioxidant-rich foods like carrots, spinach, and blueberries. Get enough sleep. Stay hydrated. Not because it'll turn you into a glowworm, but because a well-rested body just radiates slightly more bioshimmer. Want a bonus fringe fact? Some researchers think measuring a person's biophoton emissions might one day help detect diseases early, before symptoms appear. Your cells could be glowing warnings before you even feel sick. Science, you sneaky wizard. So tonight, as you lie there in the dark, remember, you're not entirely invisible. Your cells are glowing quietly, gently, like a city seen from orbit. Just a little light show, all your own. Not enough to light a room, just enough to be magic. And tomorrow, when someone tells you you're glowing, you can smile knowingly and say, I know. Now, finally, we drift outward, far beyond our fragile skin and squishy organs, past the atmosphere, past the moon, into the deep, echoing silence of space, where the atoms in your body first began. Because, in the most literal, unpoetic, beautifully scientific way possible, you are made of stardust. Every carbon atom in your body was forged in the heart of a dying star. Your calcium? From a supernova. Your iron? Born in a stellar collapse so violent it makes your worst Monday look like a beach nap. Even the oxygen you breathe and the nitrogen making up your cells came from cosmic furnaces billions of years ago. You're not just looking at the stars, you are one. And this isn't just cosmic fluff. It's backed by decades of astrophysics. Scientists have traced the elemental origins of the human body and matched them to the life cycles of stars. It turns out, to build a human, the universe needed a few billion years of nuclear fusion, a few good explosions, and a lot of patience. And here's a brain itcher. Most of the atoms in your body are older than Earth itself. That's right. You are, in some ways, more ancient than the planet you live on. No wonder your knees make that noise when you stand up. Scientists still debate whether supernovae or neutron star collisions are more responsible for spreading the heaviest elements, like gold and platinum, through space. So if you're wearing jewelry, you might be adorned with the leftovers of two dead stars slamming into each other at near light speed. Romantic, right? Even the water in your cells, those humble H2O molecules, contains hydrogen atoms created during the Big Bang. You're carrying echoes of the universe's first seconds in every sip. Cheers. And the connection goes deeper. When you breathe out, you release carbon dioxide. Carbon born in a star, now drifting through air, into trees, into oceans, into other creatures. You're part of an endless cycle of cosmic recycling. The atoms in your hand may have once been part of a dinosaur, a medieval knight, or an alien snail that exploded 10 billion years ago. Let that settle in. You are stardust. You are recycled light. You are, in the grandest sense, part of the universe trying to understand itself. And yet, here you are, lying in bed, listening to a sleepy voice talk about glowing bananas and wombat poop. That's the beauty of it. The big things and the small things are all made of the same stuff. All equally pointless. All equally beautiful. You probably won't survive the next supernova, but that's okay. You've already survived birth, heartbreak, Mondays, and accidentally replying all to an office email. You've already carried 1 billion years of stars inside you. What more could the universe ask? So tonight, feel the weight of your blanket, the softness of your breath, the gentle hum of your own existence. You don't need to go anywhere. You already are everything. Let your breath slow now, long, gentle, and quiet. The stories have paused. The stars are dimming. Your body, rebuilt by time, glowing faintly in the dark, settles into stillness. There's nothing left to remember tonight. Only drifting, only dreaming, only floating in the soft mystery of sleep. The universe can wait. Let your thoughts melt into hush, into warmth, into rest. You've traveled through facts, through centuries, through space itself. And now, it's time to be weightless. No questions, no urgency, only quiet, only peace. Sleep well, Stardust. Sleep well.